In the 1990s, I was a music pastor at a large church in Northern California. And I was coming back to my office one afternoon after lunch, and as I was coming to my office, it was an older two-story building with an outdoor staircase, and then you entered the ground floor. And Norma Bell was sitting on the bottom couple of steps. Now, Norma Bell was an older woman who worked upstairs, and as I came around the corner, I noticed that she was sitting there, but that her shoes had been kicked off in front of her, and she was sitting there rubbing her leg just a bit, and I walked on past. I said, "Hi, Norma Bell, how you doing?" And I kept walking into my office. Now, if he had pushed pause right then and asked, "Kevin, what did you just encounter out there?" I would have said, well, Norma Bell was probably sitting there on the steps in the shade having her lunch, and she kicked off her shoes to relax a bit, and that was about it. Obviously, that wasn't the story, or else I wouldn't be telling this story. Sure enough, a few moments later, I noticed some commotion outside, and I looked around the corner, and the emergency services were there, an ambulance was there, and Norma Bell had actually fallen down the last few steps and had broken her ankle. I was the first person to come upon Norma Bell in her distress. And like a busy, heartless idiot, I ignored her completely. I felt horrible. And even if my original story about Norma Bell had been true, that she was just sitting there having a lunch, I was still an epic failure as a human being. I didn't even engage her in a 5-second conversation. "Norma Bell, how are you? How are things going upstairs?" Something human to human. I just kept going, and I failed miserably. This was not a banner day for Pastor Kevin, let's just say. Fast forward now, 20 plus years later. I'm working as a communications consultant, helping people all over the world develop their messages and deliver clear, compelling communication. I have the privilege of working with all kinds of people in all kinds of industries and all kinds of geographies. And I can tell you with increasing confidence that as communicators, we are making the same epic failures that I made with Norma Bell 20 plus years ago. We are walking into meetings and conversations and presentations totally oblivious to our audience who is sprawled out on the steps and their shoes are kicked out in front of them. We are ignoring their hurts. We are ignoring their fears, their confusion. We are not thinking about them as humans. And even when our audience is simply enjoying their lunch and they aren't in distress, we still aren't even taking a minute or two and thinking about them as a real person. What are their hopes and dreams, their fears, their concerns? We are busy, we are effective, and we are losing our humanity. I can tell you, not only is that a sucky way to live, but it's also a very ineffective way for our ideas to come to life and to change people. In every communication scenario, there are 3 main players. You have the audience, the communicator, and then your content, your idea, whatever it is you're trying to share with your audience. And of those 3 main players of audience, communicator, and content, which do you think is the most important? Say audience. Thank you, that's right, yes, audience. The audience is the hero. Here's the reason why. It doesn't matter how great your idea, how lucrative your product, how transformative your strategy, no matter what it is, unless your audience gets it, your idea dies. Your and my ideas only have value when they come to life in the heart and mind of our audience, of our hero. Now, there is always resistance to our heroes being changed. And sometimes we can anticipate that resistance. It's relatively small. Maybe we're trying to get our kids to go to bed on time, or maybe we're asking for a professor for an extra week to work on a project. Sometimes that resistance is much higher and maybe even emotionally charged. Maybe we're trying to get a sales team to adopt a whole new strategy for sales, or we're asking someone to invest incredible resources into our passion project. Sometimes that resistance is even in the form of opposition. Not only does our hero not agree with us, they think we're wrong, and they're working actively to undermine our position and our influence. No matter where your hero is on that scale of resistance, the simple truth remains that unless we can move them from where they are to where they need to be, your and my ideas are going to suffer. So what role do we play in this little communication drama? Well, as communicators, we play the role of the mentor, the facilitator, the person that will do whatever it takes to have our audience move from here to there because our ideas are that important. Now, what are the characteristics of a good mentor? Well, they are many, but I think two of the most powerful traits of a mentor are empathy and humility. Empathy is seeking to understand and possibly even feel the emotions of someone else. Now, it's important to realize that I don't have to like someone to have empathy for them. This doesn't mean that your hero has to become your friend, because many times we're trying to influence people we really don't like or agree with. Empathy is not liking someone. Neither is empathy endorsement. It doesn't mean I have to agree with them or adopt their point of view. Empathy is imagination for the sake of understanding. Imagining what's it like to be them, to walk in their shoes or sit at their desk or pick your favorite metaphor. What's it like to navigate their journey? Why are they thinking this way? Why are they acting this way? A great mentor spends all kinds of energy trying to imagine the perspective of their hero so that they can find understanding and so they might even be able to relate to them. Well, if empathy allows us to see and possibly even feel, humility is what causes us to act. Humility is letting go of my own needs so I can serve the needs of my hero. Well, what needs do we have as communicators? Well, maybe the need to be in charge, to have everything always go my way. Humility says that I'm open to adjust my plan. I'm open to have others give input. How about the need for credit? It's amazing what gets accomplished when we're no longer concerned who gets credit for it. How about the need simply to be right or acknowledged as right? Every leader, every person of influence comes up to a point where they have to ask themselves, is my idea bigger than me? The humble leader says yes, and that unlocks the door to transformation. Now, I said at the beginning I was a music pastor, so understandably, I was actually a music major in college. And now, as a musician, I had more passion than talent, okay? High in the passion scale, not so much on the talent scale. You want those to be a little bit more even. And I quickly realized I had hopes and dreams as a musician that I never was going to have the ability to bring to life on my own. And if they were ever to be realized, I was going to need to solicit the input of others. So I graduated as an undergrad as a voice major, which don't be too impressed. That just means I worked really hard and had a very gracious faculty. And then I went on to get a graduate degree in conducting. Yes, this mediocre musician is actually a conductor. So much of what I've learned about communication and leadership, I've learned through conducting. Look at this leadership illustration. When you come to a concert, all you see of a conductor is their backside, right? All you see is the back of their head, the back of their body, and what you can tell of their leadership and of their influence is what you experience from their players. But your players are reflecting to the audience. I can turn around and I can address the audience and I can, tell them some insight about the musical piece we're performing or some things to be listening to. But no matter what I say, my real value, my real effectiveness as a leader isn't in my words, but what my players do. Too often, we confuse leadership with position or vision. We think that just because someone has a position of authority and maybe can even espouse a vision, we call them a leader. No. Leadership is measured not by what we say, but what our players do. Another great lesson that goes along with that simply is that I need players. I need performers. Without anyone in front of me, I'm just a guy waving my arms. There's nothing happening here. I am absolutely dependent on other people to bring my idea, my vision, my dream to life. And so then I have to decide, what kind of a conductor do I want to be? Do I want to be like the Kevin of 20 plus years ago who is busy, has lots of expectations, maybe even living a little shallowly? And so I will make sure that all my players, make sure that I know that they have a clear job description, maybe a code of conduct, that they show up to rehearsal on time, we play the right notes, we play the right rhythms, we have the right intonation. And then when I tap my baton on the music stand and we begin to play, what comes out will be music. Or do I want to awaken to my own humanity and maybe the humanity of the people I'm working with? And imagine what's it like to be them, to navigate their world, to navigate their lives, to play for a conductor who might be the least talented musician in the room, to serve them humbly, to let them correct me, let them challenge me, all the while challenging them and calling them to a better place, calling them to take their expertise, their skill, and their talent to invest it not just in their own performance, but then in the collective performance of what we're creating together. To call them to serve one another, to submit to one another, to, dare I say, even play from a place of love for one another and what we're doing together. And when I communicate and when I lead in that kind of way, when I tap my baton on the stand and we begin to play, what happens next is music. What about you? We all have ideas, we have dreams, we have hopes, we have something that we want to see come to life in our homes, in our schools, in our businesses, maybe even in the world. Some of our ideas are simple little ditties, others are a grand symphony. Every one of them requires someone or someones to come alongside and help us bring it to life. Are they players or are they people? Are they obstacles or are they individuals? Are you going to slow down long enough to imagine what's it like for them, to journey from their perspective? Are you going to serve them in such a way that their greatest fulfillment comes to life because of your leadership, because of your influence? In this room, we have leaders, we have entrepreneurs, innovators, creators, and a whole bunch of us who don't know what we are yet, but we just have a burning in our soul to make a difference. When we leverage our humanity and we seek to engage the heart of our heroes that we're talking to, when you take your podium and tap your baton on the music stand, what happens next will take your breath away. Thank you.